all begin? Like as a youth, when did when did this passion begin?
I grew up with skinheads, mods, and punks, and my mum was and a partner at the time, Andy, was really into like scooters, Lambrettas, Vespas, mods, and that was kind of I was really young, really young, and we were going on loads of scooter rallies, which I recommend everyone go to every weekend, like Camper Sands, Margate, whatever, big meetups, and there's fashion, there's clothes, you've got punks, psychobilly, it's brilliant. All night Northern Soul dancers and all that. It's brilliant.
Fucking
great.
It's
so good. It still goes on, and they're massive, right? So Old Type VFM as well, because they put all this on. And for me, growing up, I was like, even around. So I was exposed to all this music. So probably around like 8 upwards. It was the Trojan records that was getting played. So like Desmond Dekker, the Ethiopians, and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that was really cool. And then what I noticed is the more that I got down that rabbit hole, I was like, when you look at the gigs and you sit on YouTube, it's like obviously people like David Rodigan and stuff. I was like, there's actually not a lot of this. There's actually not a lot of people doing this. Like, and then you start looking at like radio play, and it's like, well, you got Rodigan's show on Radio 1. You got like Raz Kwame and that, but everything's at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And it's a bit dead.
Yeah,
and it's the same like you know.
I'll type Raz Kwame as well.
Yeah, big up Raz, Shawnee, and everybody that's representing it. But even now, like 3 years on. There's still very little. Yeah,
it doesn't change entirely. No.
Mate, I've been banging on. I moved to London to do that, to try and work into radio and be that next kind of like go-to for reggae. And I haven't seen any slots. People have come and gone, and Mr. Jam's gone to Capitol and all these kind of things, but there's still very little. And it doesn't, like, mate, like it's like Fort Knox, like whether you're trying to get into the BBC, Apple, or whatever, there is still that little bit of that. Reggae kind of like, it's a box tick. We've got it. You can't say we don't do it.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be the forefront of what we're going to promote on this station.
Reggae for me, I feel like that and classical music are the DNA of all music. It's the bass, it's the string quartets, it's everything else. Okay, maybe jazz, maybe. But these are like the buck stops at these bad boys. Like, I was just talking, I was thinking to myself, well, I think reggae's got it bad, jazz has got it really bad. But it's just incredible to think that they're not being represented.
If you take it back, I mean, like, the history of sort of the rough history, because you can go on all day, is like, you had in Jamaica, you would have like mento music, you had Naya Bingi and all the sort of really old school, even when the Spanish owned Jamaica, and they thought that the Spanish was there, they thought there was gold, and the Brits turned up, and then the Spanish realised actually there's nothing here, so they give it to the Brits, and then it fell into the Brits' hand, and then when the army bases came over, there was an influx of like transistor radios. And then when the war and all that kind of stuff, it all moved off, there was an abundance of all these radios and that, and these radios could pick up Miami. So all these Jamaicans all of a sudden were listening to like Bo Diddley and Little Richard and that. And even if you look at the first pictures of like the Wailers, they're Brill Cream. Suits,
Little Richard, basically,
you're on it. Yeah. And it's like blues, and then like you had like Mento, you had Rocksteady, Scar, and the progression of it, and then like Daddy U-Roy, who unfortunately passed recently.
Legend MC.
Legend. Ooh. But without him, Jay-Z, any of them, they wouldn't have had that same direction. Yeah, exactly. It's mad, and it's crazy how it can be the root. Yeah. And you can even go further, but we haven't got all day. But man, it's mad.
We were just saying before we jumped in, here's a Pandora's box. Hip hop and reggae share a very similar thing. To the untrained or somebody that's just getting in it for the first time, that's just like...
It's mad. It's like literally, it's one of these things where you sit there and then you'll be on YouTube and you'll be like, oh, Smith and Wesson. Hang on a minute, I heard that's a sample. I go through samples. I'm sitting there listening to hip hop. I'm like, actually, I'm pretty sure that was this record, and that looked a bit of a nerd like that. And then, to be honest, the hip hop that I like is kind of like Big Daddy Kane and that kind of stuff. More of I suppose the older school. But again, you listen to that Smith and Wesson, you listen to that old school stuff, and there's so much crossover. Even the samples like Bam Bam, Sis and Nancy, and that that's one of the most sampled records ever. But that's appeared in so much hip hop. Cypress Hill. Yeah, it's mad.
And that's the era that I too, I didn't grow up in with hip hop, but it's the area of it was that generation that I appreciate the most, because you were able to discover reggae songs because of a sample that was made on a particular track. You then go into that world. I feel like, and I'm sure you agree with me, there's something missing in the reference points, the historical reference points. Now that sampling's gone, or pretty much gone. If you can't even put a tune on Facebook that's your own. Let alone
Yeah, I know. You've got
someone
to
else's
fight.
sample.
You've got to
Yeah.
fight to get it back. It's hard. I think that like as producers, I mean, it does really piss me off. Like, you know, it's like I don't really listen to much chart music. I'm not against it, but like when I do hear, especially it's worse in house, mate. It's worse in house. I really like house. I'll play house. I love tech house. I love Green Velvet, all that kind of stuff. I love all types of music. But there's nothing worse than hearing a tune pop and it's on your radio when you're driving or you're in the back of a taxi, and it's like, all they've done is they've taken a tune, a hip hop tune, vocal that might have come out 30 years ago, put a standard 124 beat underneath it, released it, and you know they're getting bank for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
How? How has that even been allowed?
Yeah. No, I feel
It's
you.
mad. It's like, what?
How can that be allowed? I'm with you. I'm of the mind state that integrity is everything, and pop music for the broad, saying that even is generalizing a lot of things. Some of the stuff that we love will probably be perceived as that, but it's music with integrity and balls. That's really what it is. But that's.
I think it's difficult. But a large part of, if you really want to sort of go down the route of kind of looking at where people have been done over because of integrity and respect and copyright. And I mean, look at Jamaica. Like, there's no PRS, Beres Hammond, Barrington Levy, Sizzler, Trinity, Unity, all these things, right? For 30, 40, 50, 60 years, there is no protection.
They have been fucking raped.
That is a it's not a great word, but that island has been drained.
Yeah.
And the people. So now, when people come to me and they're like, oh, we want to put a reggae thing together, we got a festival together, and I'm like, cool, what's your budget? And they say, oh, 30 grand. I'm like, what for the headliner? No, for the whole thing. I'm like, mate, you ain't booking Berries and for 50, 60. Like, these people know their worth now. And these people, it's not fair. It's really not. It's just not fair. You don't understand how much, like, the work ethic and then how much they've been ripped off as well.
Yeah.
Like, Sister Nancy didn't even know that it was, like, Bam Bam was even a solid thing until she moved to America and was like, hang on a minute. Where's my bank? And like the biggest one was King Jammy and Scientist, and this is really niche. You had King Tubby, who was the hero. Then you had Scientist and Prince Jammy used to work with him as the understudies, right? And basically, King Tubby was murdered, and it was a tragedy. And then these two are geniuses, King Jammy and Scientist, right? And then basically, it's, I don't know, you play Grand Theft Auto, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's played Grand Theft Auto. KJOS, the best reggae station, better than most reggae stations in the world. It's just a fake reggae radio station on Grand Theft Auto, right?
It's the word we're in now, all right?
This is it. And the album on the reggae radio station was just Scientists, I think it was Scientists Meets Vampires. It was one of the Scientists' dub albums.
Yeah.
And Michael Prophet, like, you are a known good, you are a known good. All the big tunes, yeah? And everybody used to like rinse it when we were kids and like, oh, the reggae stage is just sick. And then basically, it turns out that Scientist was in Jamaica, and I think his nephew or his cousin was just like in London, was like, I can't believe you got your music on Grand Theft Auto. And he's like, what's that? He's like, Grand Theft Auto. And you're like, oh, what are you on about? I did some digging. So obviously that game sold like hundreds of millions of copies, right?
Yeah.
From what I believe, and from when I've interviewed Scientists, this is not just like, this is from the horse's mouth, like, it was Jammy sold the rights, and they've been back and forward in like a Champions League for like semi-final between countries going to different courts, and he's been fighting to get these rights. So he just sort of, that was sold underneath him. They hate each other, bruv. And like, so imagine how much money he didn't even know. He didn't even know that this beautiful, amazing dub album had been completely, when they've been to France, like one won in France, another court in Switzerland won, and whatever. Like, it's mad. They're back and forth in trying to claim ownership
in territory by territory.
Yeah, because obviously in different countries there's different laws. Yeah. So like the law might lean one way on copyright in this country, but then not in this country. And it's mad. I believe it's all been resolved now. But yeah, it's an interesting case. If you've got like half an hour or you're into just music stuff in general, just Google it and look at the time lapse of what happened. It's crazy.
Just the nerve.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And especially these are the days where you didn't have Ableton.
Yeah.
Now we're talking like 50s and 60s. Like, man's putting a pan, sellotaping pans to ceilings and stuff to try and work out the acoustics of hitting something and getting reverbs. Like, that's the level in shacks that you're at. You know what I mean?
God, I love that shit.
It's great to talk about. But I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so you can. I mean, I've just rabbited on, but that's just one of a million stories where that's happened to within reggae, and that's why that's why it annoys me when you get the new dancehall or bashment, if you will, because someone make a rhythm, you get 15 artists jump on it, and it's like. There's like a different rhythm coming out every day. Whereas, like for me, when if I do a dancehall set, I love old school 80s Steely and Clevie rhythm, like you know, like Slang Tang and Bam Bam and like Playground rhythm and Beanie Man, and I like the rhythms.
The stuff that you can drop in anywhere and it just goes off.
Mate, you can play it in revs on a Saturday night, or you can get away playing it at a jazz festival. It's gonna go off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Cool as shit.
Whatever. Yeah,
Love it.
Yeah, it's amazing, man.